Catherine Christensen from Picnic Point, Toowoomba. I remember the Monday of the flood very clearly. I was in charge of the business for that week. I anticipated a very cruisy week of not much happening in the rain, and unfortunately we got an unpleasant surprise. Later in the day, the rain intensified to such a degree that we'd never really felt or experienced before. The cleaner came to me in a panic, saying that the water was about to start coming inside the building through the function centre. So I joined him downstairs with some, what do you call that, squeegees, and we spent the next 45 minutes basically just pushing the water away so that it wouldn't enter the building. While that was going on, the staff upstairs were great. They just jumped in and they were doing exactly the same thing at the other entrances to the building. We had people running in from their cars, the car park, into the building, basically just panicking, saying that they were caught in the rain and they were frightened. It caused panic for one of the staff members. He seemed quite disturbed and upset at the time. And basically, just during that period, we could just only keep going with repelling the water. We just basically keeping it together for that period. It wasn't clear to us at that point what had gone on downtown, but basically we also had water coming through the light fittings in the cafe, so we basically just shut up. One of our staff members went to check on his house and he came back and told us that the town had been cut in half and he couldn't get home, so we just sort of did what we could to sort of mop up, if you like, and then shut the doors, and in due course everyone was able to make their way home. During the week that followed, it was quite a stressful period. One of our chefs lives down in Murphy's Creek, or Postman's Ridge actually is where he lives, and he'd lost neighbours, and he had multiple people sleeping at his house. And what really struck me and surprised me was how amazing the staff, or the team if you like, were regarding, I guess, the devastation that had happened. Sort of found staff were bringing in their linen, their towels, their clothes, whatever they could find to give to these people that had just lost everything. It really struck home to me how generous of heart and spirit everyone was, given that hospitality people are not the highest paid people in the world. It just was incredible how much they gave. In the days that followed, people coming up that just made their way out of the valley, literally. They'd finally found a way through the cut-off roads, and they were looking for food and newspapers, anything that they could get to sort of find out what had happened, and also, just for survival, I guess, the food. And we, gave whatever we could to those people at that time. I found that everybody had that generous heart spirit, from the staff through to the customers in that time. But, it was a tricky time for everyone. No damage done to the building, no. But had we not been in the building at that time, we would have had a wipe out of the function centre in terms of water. I'm absolutely certain of it. I guess for all business in town, there was the initial flood, but then the sort of long-term damage to business. The trade was very tight and tough in the months that followed. So that was, I guess, a stress for everybody in town, just trying to get back on your feet financially. It's another defining aspect of that week was well, it was a very dark week, but we also had helicopters flying all day overhead down into the valley, back and forth. And that was actually quite stressful, because at the time you weren't sure how many people had died. The noise of the helicopters made me feel like I was in a war zone, basically. In that immediate week, we had a lot of people coming up to Picnic Point, just arriving at Picnic Point, because I suppose they thought that there was something to see. It was such a shock, I think, for everybody to think that there could have been a flood in Toowoomba of the magnitude that we had, and how on earth it then went through the valley. So they were trying to work out exactly what had happened. And a lot of them came to us and asked, you know, whether we could see something, or whether we'd seen the water going over the edge of the range, and, you know, oh, you would have been in a good spot. Yeah, just sort of a morbid fascination, if you like, with what the events that had passed. But for us, we were sort of saying, well, no, we were really busy just reacting and trying to keep the water out of our venue, and I found that an uncomfortable part of that week, because you don't want to be rude to your customers, yet again I didn't feel it was a fair ask of us to sort of respond to that sort of comment, really.
And now, in terms of the mosaic, can you think of where you'd like it to be?
Well, we have, you know, many places it could be positioned, but there is, well, I don't know how that would work, but there is that garden bed just as you walk across the bridge, and there's a beautiful rock there, and that could actually be a beautiful spot because it's highly visible as people approach Picnic Point. But that being said, it could also hang on any of the walls that we've been and looked at.